Hello, I'm SA, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
The late 19th century in America presented a landscape of transformation, a period often termed the Gilded Age, where industrial ambition and technological innovation reshaped the nation's economic and social fabric. Within this era of burgeoning corporate power and intense market competition, a figure emerged whose acumen and relentless drive would profoundly influence the trajectory of American commerce. James Buchanan Duke. His story is inextricably linked to the evolution of the tobacco industry, a sector that, while seemingly humble in its origins, became a crucible for the development of modern marketing, brand loyalty, and industrial consolidation. The challenge facing entrepreneurs of this period was monumental. Industries were frequently characterized by a multitude of small, independent producers, each vying for a share of a growing but fragmented consumer base. The tobacco industry, in particular, was a patchwork of regional manufacturers, each with their own blends and distribution networks. Cigarette production, a relatively new and rapidly expanding segment of this market, was ripe for unifying force, a visionary capable of imposing order and achieving scale. The problem was not merely about producing a good product, it was about creating demand, establishing widespread recognition, and overcoming the inertia of established, albeit smaller, competitors who guarded their local markets fiercely. Success demanded more than manufacturing prowess. It required a sophisticated understanding of consumer psychology and an audacious approach to market penetration. Duke's solution was multifaceted. A strategic orchestration of innovation, aggressive expansion, and pioneering marketing techniques. He recognized early on that the future of tobacco lay not in traditional hand-rolled cigars or chewing tobacco, but in the mass-produced, machine-rolled cigarette. This was a critical insight, as the introduction of the Bonsack cigarette-making machine in the early 1880s offered an unprecedented leap in production efficiency. Where a skilled artisan might produce a few hundred cigarettes a day, a single Bonsack machine could churn out thousands. Duke was among the first to fully embrace this technological revolution, acquiring multiple machines and establishing a factory that could meet the burgeoning demand. Yet, the technological advantage alone was insufficient. The market was still diffuse, and consumer preference was largely unshaped. Duke's genius lay in his understanding that brand building and advertising were as vital as production capacity. He moved beyond the conventional methods of his contemporaries, who relied on local peddlers and word of mouth. Duke invested heavily in advertising, a concept that, while not entirely new, was applied with a skill and sophistication previously unseen in the tobacco trade. His early efforts focused on creating distinct brands that would resonate with consumers. The introduction of Duke's Mixture, a blend that offered a consistent and appealing flavor, was a significant step. It was marketed not as a generic tobacco product, but as a specific experience, an identifiable entity in the marketplace. The true watershed moment in Duke's marketing strategy arrived with the introduction of Red Rose. This brand, packaged in distinctive, eye-catching lithographed cartons, became a symbol of Duke's aggressive market penetration. The cartons themselves were a departure from the plain paper wrappers or simple tins commonly used. They were vibrant, portable advertisements designed to catch the eye on store shelves and in the hands of consumers. Duke's advertising campaigns extended beyond mere product placement. He understood the power of association and aspiration. Advertisements often depicted scenes of leisure, prosperity, and social grace, subtly linking the consumption of Duke cigarettes to a desirable lifestyle. This was a profound shift, moving from selling a commodity to selling an image, a feeling, a part of a perceived identity. Furthermore, Duke employed a sophisticated distribution strategy. He recognized the importance of controlling the entire supply chain, from raw tobacco leaf to the final sale. This involved establishing relationships with farmers, investing in processing facilities, and developing a robust network of distributors and retailers. His approach was to make his products readily available everywhere, ensuring that wherever a consumer might be, a pack of Duke cigarettes was within reach. This ubiquitous presence, coupled with consistent quality and compelling advertising, began to forge a powerful brand loyalty. Consumers who found satisfaction in Red Rose or Duke's Mixture would likely return to these familiar brands, creating a stable and growing customer base. The problem Duke addressed was therefore not just about manufacturing cigarettes. It was about transforming a fragmented, artisanal industry into a mass-market enterprise driven by brand recognition and consumer preference. His unique solution involved a potent combination of technological adoption, aggressive marketing, and strategic distribution. He pioneered the concept of the cigarette as a branded consumer good, accessible and desirable to a broad spectrum of society. The scale of his advertising expenditure, the innovation in packaging, and the relentless pursuit of market share set a new standard for industrial enterprise. The enduring legacy of this period lies in the foundational principles Duke established for brand building, consumer engagement, and market dominance strategies that continue to inform and shape the strategies of global corporations across a vast array of industries in our contemporary world. The very notion of a widely recognized, consistently advertised consumer brand owes a significant debt to the pioneering efforts of figures like James B. Duke, who understood that in the burgeoning industrial economy, the power of persuasion and the creation of identity were as potent as the machinery of production. The landscape of late 19th century commerce was a turbulent sea of competition, a fragmented bazaar where countless enterprises vied for the consumer's attention and coin. Within this dynamic environment, the tobacco industry, particularly the burgeoning market for manufactured cigarettes, presented a peculiar paradox. It was an arena of intense rivalry, yet one ripe for consolidation, a fertile ground for an individual with a keen understanding of scale, efficiency, and the art of market control. James B. Duke, having already established a formidable presence in the cigarette trade through relentless innovation and aggressive expansion, recognized the inherent inefficiencies of this fractured marketplace. The proliferation of independent manufacturers, each operating with limited resources and often employing similar, albeit less sophisticated, production methods, created a ceiling on potential growth and profitability. This was a problem of the time's vast, untapped market for cigarettes, served by a multitude of small, competing entities, none possessing the power to dictate terms, control supply, or command the broad consumer recognition that true market leadership demands. Duke's solution was audacious and transformative, the creation of a colossal industrial edifice, the American Tobacco Company, or ATC, This was no mere merger. It was a strategic aggregation, a masterful consolidation of 5 of the leading cigarette manufacturers of the era, including Duke's own W. Duke, Sons and Company. The sheer audacity of bringing these rivals under a single corporate umbrella, effectively commandeering over 90% of the nation's cigarette production, sent seismic ripples through the industrial world. The formation of the ATC was underpinned by a profound understanding of how to leverage scale to its absolute maximum. By pooling resources, Duke could implement advanced manufacturing techniques across all its plants, achieving a level of efficiency that smaller competitors simply could not match. This included the adoption and refinement of the Bonsack cigarette-making machine, a technological marvel that dramatically increased production speed and lowered per-unit costs. The economies of scale extended beyond the factory floor. The consolidated purchasing power of the ATC allowed for preferential pricing on raw materials, particularly the fine grades of tobacco, essential for quality cigarettes. This control over the supply chain created a formidable barrier to entry for any nascent competitor. Furthermore, the ATC employed a multifaceted strategy to solidify its dominance. The company meticulously managed its distribution networks, ensuring its products were available in every corner of the nation. This pervasive presence was reinforced by a sustained and substantial investment in advertising and branding. While Duke had already pioneered aggressive marketing, the ATC amplified these efforts, transforming the cigarette into a recognizable, desirable consumer artifact. Packaging became a critical element, with distinctive brands and attractive designs fostering consumer loyalty. The company was adept at cultivating a sense of ubiquity, making its brands synonymous with the very act of smoking. Beyond the creation of operational efficiencies and market penetration, the ATC strategy also incorporated tactics that, while effective in establishing dominance, would later draw significant scrutiny. Through its sheer market power, the company could exert considerable influence over retailers, often favoring outlets that exclusively stocked ATC products. This exclusionary practice, coupled with the company's ability to absorb or outmaneuver smaller rivals through aggressive pricing or outright acquisition, cemented its near-monopolistic position. The ATC became a quintessential example of a trust in the American industrial landscape, a monolithic entity that seemed to defy the very principles of free market competition. The historical significance of the American Tobacco Company's ascendant phase is profound. It served as a potent case study in the power of industrial consolidation and the potential consequences of unchecked market dominance. The ATC's near-monopoly status did not go unnoticed. It became a focal point for growing public and political unease regarding the concentration of economic power in the hands of a few industrialists. This period of unparalleled success for Duke and the ATC inadvertently laid the groundwork for the antitrust movement that would soon challenge its very existence. The strategies employed, the relentless pursuit of scale, the control of supply chains, the sophisticated branding, and the assertive market tactics, all contributed to an economic model that was both exceptionally successful in its time and deeply controversial. The ATC's rise demonstrated that a single entity could, through strategic acumen and sheer force of will, reshape an entire industry, a phenomenon that would have lasting implications for economic regulation and the societal understanding of corporate power. The company's ability to orchestrate such a comprehensive takeover of our fragmented market underscored a new era of industrial organization, one where vision, capital, and strategic ruthlessness could forge empires. This era of dominance, while a testament to Duke's business acumen, also sowed the seeds of future conflict, as the very scale of his achievement would inevitably attract the attention of those concerned with the balance of power in the American economy. The success of the American Tobacco Company represented a paradigm shift, demonstrating the potent combination of technological adoption, aggressive marketing, and strategic distribution that would define industrial titans for generations to come. It was an era where James B. Duke's understanding of the consumer, coupled with his mastery of industrial consolidation, created an entity that was not merely a business, but a force that reshaped the economic fabric of a nation. The formidable structure of the American Tobacco Company, a testament to James B. Duke's strategic vision and relentless drive, cast a long shadow across the American economic landscape. Its success in consolidating a vast and previously fragmented industry into a singular, powerful entity was a defining characteristic of the age. This concentration of economic power, however, did not go unnoticed. As the company's influence grew, so too did the scrutiny from public officials and a populace increasingly concerned with the ramifications of such industrial monopolies. The very mechanisms that had propelled Duke to the apex of the tobacco world, aggressive market acquisition, vertical integration, and the strategic leveraging of capital, began to attract the attention of those charged with safeguarding fair competition and preventing undue economic influence. The prevailing sentiment in the early 20th century was shifting. The Gilded Age, with its unfettered industrial expansion and the rise of powerful trusts, was giving way to an era demanding greater regulation and accountability. Legislators and jurists grappled with the complex question of how to balance the undeniable efficiencies and innovations brought by large-scale enterprise against the potential for stifling competition and exploiting consumers. Within this evolving legal and social climate, the American Tobacco Company, as a preeminent example of a trust, became a focal point for these burgeoning concerns. The company's dominance, its ability to dictate terms across the supply chain, and its sheer market capitalization presented a compelling case for examination under the Sherman Antitrust Act by the 1890, legislation designed to curb combinations and restraint of trade. The legal challenges mounted against the American Tobacco Company were not levied against its operational efficiency or the quality of its products. Rather, they targeted the very structure and scale of its market control. The government contended that the company's practices, which had effectively eliminated significant competition, constituted an illegal monopoly. This was a critical juncture, not only for Duke's personal fortune and empire, but for the future trajectory of corporate law and industrial organization in the United States. The case was a profound test of the nation's commitment to a competitive marketplace, forcing a reckoning with the power wielded by industrial titans. The legal proceedings culminated in a landmark decision by the Supreme Court of the United States in 1911. The court affirmed the government's position, ruling that the American Tobacco Company, in its then current form, was indeed an illegal combination in restraint of trade. The ruling mandated the dissolution of the trust, requiring its constituent parts to be separated into independent entities. This was a seismic event, a judicial decree that would dismantle one of the most powerful industrial organizations ever assembled. For James B. Duke, it meant the forced relinquishment of his direct, consolidated control over the vast tobacco empire he had so meticulously built. The immediate aftermath of the Supreme Court's decision presented a profound challenge. The legal dismantling of the American Tobacco Company was not simply a matter of paperwork. It represented a fundamental alteration of the economic landscape Duke had shaped. However, Duke's genius lay not merely in building an empire, but in his capacity for adaptation and foresight. While the ruling fractured the monolithic structure of the ATC, it did not diminish Duke's immense capital, his keen understanding of markets, or his entrepreneurial spirit. The dissolution, though a legal setback, also presented an opportunity for strategic redirection. Duke's response to this significant legal and economic disruption was characteristic of his pragmatic and forward-thinking approach to business. Rather than retreating or attempting to rebuild the exact same structure, he demonstrated a remarkable ability to pivot his focus and reinvest his considerable resources into emerging and rapidly growing sectors of the American economy. The dissolution of the American Tobacco Company marked the end of one era for Duke, but simultaneously ushered in another, one centered on the burgeoning field of electric power generation and distribution. His most significant new venture became the Southern Power Company, established in 1905, which would later evolve into Duke Power. This initiative was deeply rooted in Duke's understanding of the transformative potential of electricity for industrial development, particularly in the American South. The region, historically reliant on agriculture and facing significant infrastructural challenges, was poised for an industrial renaissance, and Duke recognized that reliable and affordable electricity was the essential catalyst for this transformation. The strategy behind the Southern Power Company was ambitious and far-reaching. Duke envisioned a network of interconnected hydroelectric dams and power plants that would supply electricity to a wide array of industries across North and South Carolina, and eventually beyond. This was a departure from the consumer-focused, product-driven model of the tobacco business. Instead, it was about building fundamental infrastructure, the very engine that would power future industrial growth. Duke understood that by providing this essential utility, he could foster economic development on a massive scale, creating new markets and opportunities for a diverse range of manufacturing enterprises. The development of the Southern Power Company was a masterclass in long-term investment and strategic planning. Duke marshaled significant capital, acquired vast tracts of land, and oversaw the complex engineering and construction of dams and transmission lines. His approach was characterized by a commitment to vertical integration, controlling the entire process from water acquisition and power generation to distribution. This allowed for greater efficiency and cost control, mirroring the successful strategies he had employed in the tobacco industry. The company's success was predicated on supplying electricity at competitive rates to burgeoning textile mills, furniture factories, and other nascent industries, thereby fueling their growth and, in turn, expanding the demand for electricity. This strategic shift into the electric power sector demonstrated Duke's acute awareness of evolving economic trends. He recognized that while the tobacco industry had been immensely profitable, the future of industrial expansion lay in the provision of essential services and infrastructure. Electricity was becoming the lifeblood of modern industry, and Duke positioned himself to be a primary supplier of this vital commodity. His investments in Southern Power were not merely opportunistic. They were a deliberate and calculated move to capitalize on the electrification of America and the industrialization of the South. The modern relevance of this period in Duke's life is multifaceted. The antitrust case against the American Tobacco Company set important precedents for the regulation of monopolies and the enforcement of competition laws, shaping the legal framework for corporate behavior in the United States for decades to come. The Supreme Court's decision underscored the principle that even immensely successful and profitable enterprises could be subject to dissolution if their market dominance was deemed to be in violation of antitrust statutes. This ongoing dialogue between industrial power and regulatory oversight remains a critical aspect of economic policy today, influencing how large corporations operate and how governments manage market dynamics. Furthermore, Duke's transition to the electric power industry highlights a timeless business strategy, diversification, and reinvestment in growth sectors. When faced with market disruption or regulatory challenges in one area, successful leaders often seek opportunities in nascent or expanding fields. Duke's foresight in recognizing the foundational role of electricity in the developing economy of the South provided a powerful example of this adaptive strategy. The legacy of the Southern Power Company, as Duke Power and later as part of Duke Energy, continues to be felt today, powering millions of homes and businesses and underscoring the enduring impact of Duke's strategic pivot. His ability to navigate the complex legal landscape and successfully redeploy his capital into a new, transformative industry solidified his reputation not only as a builder of empires, but as a master of economic adaptation, ensuring his influence extended far beyond the realm of tobacco into the very infrastructure of modern American life. The vast industrial edifice constructed by James B. Duke, a titan of tobacco and a visionary in electric power, ultimately found its most profound and enduring expression not in smokestacks or factories, but in the halls of academia. The immense wealth accumulated through decades of shrewd business acumen and relentless expansion found a powerful new avenue for deployment through philanthropy, a commitment that would reshape the landscape of higher education in the American South and beyond. The question of how immense industrial wealth could be channeled for broader societal benefit occupied the thoughts of many affluent individuals of Duke's era. Duke's response, though emerging in the twilight of his career, was a forward-thinking, deeply impactful endowment that directly led to the establishment and renaming of Trinity College as Duke University. This act of generosity addressed a fundamental need for robust educational institutions capable of fostering innovation and educating future generations of leaders. Duke's personal involvement in the establishment of the Duke Endowment was meticulously crafted. He envisioned a perpetual fund dedicated to specific areas of public good education, hospitals, and orphanages, with a significant portion earmarked for the development of Trinity College. His will stipulated that a substantial sum, amounting to over $40 million at the time, be set aside. This endowment was designed to be administered by a board of trustees, ensuring its long-term stewardship and strategic allocation. The transformative potential of this bequest was immediately apparent. Trinity College, a modest Methodist institution with a growing reputation, was poised for an unprecedented leap forward. The endowment provided the financial backdrop for expansion, faculty recruitment, new facilities, and the elevation of academic standards to a national and ultimately international level. The renaming of the college to Duke University in honor of his father, Washington Duke, and himself, was a fitting recognition of this pivotal moment. The modern relevance of this philanthropic endeavor is manifold and continues to resonate powerfully today. Duke University stands as a preeminent example of the transformative power of private philanthropy in higher education. It illustrates how substantial capital, strategically invested, can elevate an institution from regional significance to global prominence. The endowment's focus on education, healthcare, and child welfare also established a model for philanthropic giving that prioritized tangible societal impact. This approach has influenced countless other universities and charitable foundations, shaping current discussions on the responsibility of wealth and the role of private capital in addressing public challenges. Duke's vision was not merely to create a monument to his name, but to cultivate an environment where intellectual curiosity could flourish, where groundbreaking research could be conducted, and where future generations would be equipped to tackle the complex issues of their time. The legacy of James B. Duke is thus a complex tapestry woven from threads of industrial innovation, strategic business foresight, and a profound commitment to public welfare through philanthropy. His early ventures in the tobacco industry, particularly his mastery of mass production and marketing with brands like Duke's Mixture, fundamentally altered consumer markets and established new paradigms for industrial organization. His subsequent pivot into the burgeoning field of electric power through the creation of the Southern Power Company demonstrated an uncanny ability to identify and capitalize on foundational shifts in the economic landscape. This diversification was a testament to his adaptable business acumen, recognizing that electricity would become the lifeblood of industrial progress and modern living. The legal and regulatory battles he navigated, often against powerful established interests, underscore a persistent theme in his career: a willingness to challenge conventions and to operate at the forefront of economic evolution. His success in consolidating disparate power generation and distribution assets laid the groundwork for reliable and expanding energy infrastructure across the southeastern United States, a contribution that fueled economic growth and improved the quality of life for millions. The Southern Power Company, evolving into Duke Power and later becoming an integral part of Duke Energy, continues to be a significant force in the energy sector, a living testament to the enduring impact of Duke's strategic vision. His ability to redeploy capital and intellectual energy into a new, transformative industry solidified his reputation as a builder of empires and a master of economic adaptation, ensuring his influence extended far beyond the realm of tobacco into the very infrastructure of modern American life. The story of James B. Duke is ultimately a narrative of ambition, adaptation, and enduring impact. From the fields of tobacco to the circuits of electricity, his career charts a course through pivotal moments in American industrial history. His business strategies reshaped markets, his investments powered progress, and his final, monumental act of philanthropy established an institution that continues to shape minds and advance knowledge. His journey from a young entrepreneur to a national industrial figure, and finally to a benefactor of unparalleled vision, offers a compelling case study in the multifaceted nature of leadership and the far-reaching consequences of concentrated wealth. The intellectual rigor and strategic foresight that propelled his business ventures found powerful echo in the careful planning and enduring vision behind the Duke Endowment, creating a legacy that transcends the purely commercial and enters the realm of lasting societal contribution.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.